Athathekelo ndiyasweka phaa kwimizuzu mingaphi na ishumi lesithandathu ke ngoku kule mizuzu emveni kwayo intsimbi yeshumi nanjengesithembiso sabe sincokola naye phaa unyana katatomkhulu Gama sincokola village mentality versus limiting mindset sele simfumene kananjalo besendinomari ke ndiqonda khame ndibhalela abanye bakhawuleze bamfumane kwelaa cala siyabonakala ngathi siselungile kwelaa cala lungisa imayikhi ke nto kacucu kwelaa cala sizokwazi uncokola nantsoke buti masikwamkele kuhle kunjani.
Um, Thank you so much for this invitation. Ndiyabulela kuhle kakhulu kuba kulapha ndiyathemba niphilile. Can you hear me properly?
Yes siyakuva bhuti wam kakuhle kweli cala. Bhuti Gama mandikunike ithuba kananjalo uzazise ugama ngubani waphi emele ntoni phambi koba sibe kanti siyaqala thina.
First of all, Mr. Toko, it's such an opportunity. Ndingugama Cuba, ndi-senior mentor ye-Edukasi. Of course, ke nezinye izinto endizenzayo, but I think the most significant thing is i-representative ka-Edukasi, an educational advocacy organization that was founded by university students a couple of years ago at UWC, who are accounting professionals. Baye babona that there was a gap between students from rural areas and urban universities, students from the townships and urban universities. And so they realize that these students, they don't know how to fit in with universities, and they don't know how to fit in with the culture of urbanization. The most you've ever realized, babe ngoku xa udibana nabo balapha and you have a culture shock, right? And so then we started Edukasi. We bring in students, we mentor them, and we assist them. Then when they are professionals, they get adopted into the jobs market through our network, and they mentor other students, of course. And ichairperson yethu Anelesilo, who is the founder of the organization, is one of the highest champions, who is a professional himself, youth-led, youth-founded. And I think that's a little bit about us.
Okay, namhlanje sive kusithiwa namhlanje sawuncokola about village mentality versus limiting mindset. Kwenzeka ntoni?
So funny enough, this is such a significant topic that I want us to talk about because, with one of your presenters, Uchuma Mdeuka, we had a tete-a-tete. And the big thing was, there is negative rural mindsets, that we have to address as people of color or as people emerging from Ilali. And so Mr. Mdeuka was of the position that, no man, to say village mentality is derogatory, and why not use the terminology limiting mindsets? Because some of the positions that we're highlighting, they are general. Of course, because I'm a provocateur, I use the language village mentality because every great man is born from a village. And so there are a couple of negative rural mindsets that I've highlighted, about 5 of them. And I think that's what the big point is about. Mr. Stokwe.
Alright, Mr. Gama, masiyeke abantu masizithelekise ke ngoku ubana ngaba sidibene phi phakathi i-village mentality kwakunye ne-limiting mindset. Nibone ntoni lenzeka ezilalini kwakunye naniqonda ubana ikhona i-mindset enciphileyo ebantwini ingakumbi kwindlela yokucinga yokuthetha neyokwenza?
Yeah, so kunezinto ezi-assumayo njengonolala. First of all, when you are a rural person, particularly masithi ngwase-Eastern Cape, you come from an environment apho i-worldview yakho is knitted around isintu, not isintu the religion, but isintu the philosophy, right? Because these are two things. And isintu has then an aspect or a portion of the umbrella, kuthiwa ubuntu. Ubuntu is the question of sacrificing yourself for the visitor, sacrificing yourself for the other, and these stereotypes because ngabantu siziphatha, ngobuntu. So you find out that as mindsets, xa ufika edolophini, you expect to practice ubuntu and you expect wonke umuntu osedolophini ngumntu. And so as mindsets that are negative for rural people who are moving into cities, right? They affect you. Like, for example, only a rural minded person hates acknowledging who introduced mentored, guided them towards new relationships, worldviews, and places. These people really acknowledge your input in them or in their lives. It's like they discovered it alone. You know, Luthando. What I've realized is that because as lalini yonke into belongs to everyone, and maungenayo, everyone must contribute. Xa ufika edolophini, you are dealing with a very high level of individualism because you are dealing with Western forms of development. Apho umuntu athi into yam nam. We understand. You know, babantu bayakwazi ukuba mfethu ibe nguye nenja yakhe. You understand? You know, ibe nguye nenja yakhe, ibe nguye nekati yakhe, you know, and so on. But if unolala ufike edolophini, you have to delete that because at a certain level, ubuntu not for abantu, ubuntu for abantu bakho. Do you understand what I mean? You know,
Yes,
so
yes.
collaborativeness is not really effective at that space because ubuntu bakho buzodinwa, ukulunga kwakho kuzodinwa. You can't keep on helping people who don't acknowledge you. You can't keep on helping people who don't recognize you. You can't keep on promoting people who don't actually recognize that the worldview came from you, right? So it's very difficult for abantu abavela ezilalini when you put them into spaces. It's difficult for them to acknowledge. It's difficult for them to recognize. It's difficult to say because as lalini, nothing belongs to anyone. Everything belongs to everyone. You understand? And the hierarchy is also specified on a certain gender role and the norm.
Mr. Gama, njengoko siyazi uba ngeli xesha sikulo i-urbanization is too much. People are moving, there are many push factors, umsebenzi, izikolo, yonke into ukhanyo, i-careers, abantu are going to your Cape Town, your Joburg, zonke ezi ndawo that zikhanyile. Sithini emntwaneni namhlanje osezilalini, ofunda ezilalini, ojonge ezaa ndawo njengendawo yona that is, these are the green pastures, naye afuna ukuya kuzo?
Okay, it's going to be very important for us to say, being from the village is not the problem, you know, but here is a big topic ethethwa ngamangesi bathi ungayikhupha imfene ehlathini kodwa ihlatha unakho ukulikhupha emfeneni, right? So you will always be from the village, but when you get into the big city you must adjust, you know. And when I say you must adjust, I'm aggressively saying so. It will help.
Yimagama mani, yinto le nto ikubangele nifune abantu abasuka ezilalini bafike nyhani batshintshe xa bafika ezidolophini. Kutheni singa-advocateli uba nabantu abasezidolophini? Because nabantu abasezidolophini banayo i-mindset esothusayo singabantu abasuka ezilalini, siqonda uba bengamelanga kodwa abantu babehave olu hlobo. Umzekelo, when we talk of the topic of being homophobic, we talk of i-topic HIV and AIDS, you find out uba kwasezilalini, kwasezidolophini, abona bantu ba-homophobic, you find them ininzi labo likwelaxa, fumaniseka uba iliteracy okanye indlela abafundiswe ngayo nendlela abafunde ngayo iyothusa. But why must we advocate kakhulu ubana ngaba xa usuka ezilalini and you must be aggressively so and say ufuneka uadjuste kulaa nto isiphayana edolophini? Why is that?
Question yakho, funny enough, it touches on point number 2. Only
Okay.
a rural mindset makes people change associations based on class, wealth, status, right? These people constantly change friends based on benefits and not on shared values, right? Now,
Okay.
crux yalento is shared values. Shared values. Shared values. Uyabona, when you bring a village mentality into a bigger city, uyabo ungumntu first of all onentloni, masithi mhlawumbe uvela kwifemeli esokolayo, right? And number 2, uvela kwifemeli engenanto, xa ufika pha ubungubonga, and then xa ubona abelungu ungubhonga. To understand, you know,
Yeah.
xa ufika uphume ezilalini ungustokwe, now uma ufika edolophini ungusto. Do you get what I mean? You know,
Yes.
what I've realized, you know, what we need to keep as village people is shared values. What are shared values? The value of ndivela somewhere, I come from somewhere. And therefore, I'm here to equip myself so that I can bring back what I have back to my village. Ndiyafuna highlight that the crux of my topic is provocative intentionally, you know. And so the aim here is, sukuthi xa uphume ezilalini, utshintshe iitshomi zakho ezinemali, utshintshe iitshomi zakho ubusokola nazo ube neetshomi ezinemali, uba alienate abantu ubukhula nabo, right? Now, back to what you are saying, you know, the values are always going to be different from city to city. But what makes you is not how much money you have, how many cars you have, how many houses you have, but what's going to make you as umntu is the position of ndungumntana wapi, ndungumntana wobani, and ndilapha ndirepresenta bona. And I think that's one of the biggest problems that we are having. Irrespective of the political ideology that emerges, whether it's on the position of diversity and inclusion, whether it's on the position of capitalism or communism, but i-values zethu zokuba ndingumni, ndingubani, you know, those are the things you must keep. So it's not everything that is going to work for you in the city. Okay, over to you, Mr. Stokwe.
Inoba Mr. Gama siyibhuda phi ke ngoku singabemi basezilalini, because kuyacaca uba siye sifike sibe dominated kwela kanye songanyelwe kwela cala ngabantu noba kwenzeka ntoni na ezidolophini. Ingaba siyibhuda phi thina kweziseko, even the foundation yabantwana ezikolweni, your foundation phase up until your FET phase, because xa uphuma ubheka to your varsities, and that's when you're going to the bigger cities, your Majoburg, Cape Town, njalo 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 njalo. Ingaba siyayibhuda ifoundation yokwenza sure ubana ngaba siyabavalidate abantu bakuthi ubana ngaba, ingakumbi imagine le topic sincokola ngayo ngenyanga yamagugu kwakunye namafa. Ingaba siyabavalidate abantu baqine babangobani before baye kula macala anje ya?
It's fundamentally significant for us to realize that we enter into a global philosophy, into the global village, with an indigenous philosophy, which is the rural and the village philosophy. So how do we then merge these two thinkings? First of all, we need to continue to calibrate and cement the value of the village mentality is an existing philosophy, you know, and we must not be swayed and moved by the fact that it's been used derogatory and negatively. Because it's like people who become rich and they move into white areas. They think somehow they become white because they've moved into suburbs. You are not going to be white. You are always going to be the black. And if there's a racist there, you are going to be a kafir all of your life. You understand? And sorry for using a strong term. So part of the problem is that our foundation.
Let's withdraw that one.
I withdraw that term. So you are always going to be the darkie in the room. Do you understand? You are always going to be the darkie in the room. And once we come into grips with that our class adjustment doesn't change our fundamental values of who we were, where we are from, then it gives us a sense of pride and how can we take it back. And I want to highlight back again to your listeners and to everybody. I use the term, remember, I'm extrapolating, you use a bit of exaggeration, right, in the talking. So the term kafir is used in the context of the conversation. This is not Vukani's opinion.
No. Maska explain lo term le term asivumelekanga nosibize noyibize, because izasifaka engxakini thina. Yeah. Because omnye umuntu uzayibamba angayi-understand i-context ne-concept ekuncokolwa ngayo athi kuthethwa ngeli gama. Okay.
Exactly.
Okay.
So it's not Vukani's opinion. I'm extrapolating. Now back to my context, right? Back to my context. My context is that irrespective, you will always, you will always be the black in the room. Ukuhlala phakathi kwabelungu does not make you umlungu. So part of the problem why sivesifike siginyeke is because thina singabantu abamnyama, you know, we are struggling with this Stockholm syndrome. Thina siyafuna uphila sibe ngathi singabelungu. You know, we get in ties quickly and we are not in a position of emphasizing ubuthina. We are not in a position of emphasizing isintu sethu. We are not in a position, and it's not by mistake, it's deliberately so, Mr. Stokwe. It's deliberately so. Inkonzo have driven a Western agenda. Churches have driven a Western, and I'm a pastor. Churches have driven a Western agenda for over 400 years in the African context. And so we adopt land ya belungu, we adopt land ya West, and we find that now our predecessors who have lived opposite their oppressors, They, because of religion, two, because of hunger, define success as the lived experiences of abelungu. Right? Now, when you come from a village mindset point of view, and you've been defining that umuntu ophumeleleyo phofu xa ubizwa kuthiwa xa unemali ungumlungu, asoze kuthiwe ungudlamini okanye kuthiwe ungumni, you know, xa unemali kuthiwa hey mlungu, you understand? And so now by the time you get an opportunity, you're already thinking xa ndiphumelele mandame ndiyohlala eConstantia, xa ndiphumelele mandame ndiyohlala eSandton. You don't think like a fundamental patriot that says xa ndiphumelele mandizise le nto ndiyaziyo ukuzobenefit abantu bethu. Do you see? You
Yes,
know,
yes.
you don't think like that. And el gama ke line-term kwi-psychology. El gama kuthiwa si-Stockholm syndrome. The definition and, you know, the love and the care of your abuser. You want the lived experience of your abuser. You want to define success as the aspiration of your your abusers. And you know, so those are the fundamental challenges. We must cement our philosophy. Isintu is alive. Isintu is real. You know, but Isintu is not for everyone. Isintu for abantu. Ayinguye wonke umuntu ozosiphatha ngobuntu mntakwethu. You understand? And kule nyanga yamagugu, we must not think after 450 years, abantu will treat us like singabantu. Not everything that is out there is going to treat us with the dignity. We must begin to teach other people isintu.
Enkosi kakhulu,
Not
enkosi kakhulu.
isintu the religion, but isintu the philosophy.
Okay, enkosi kakhulu kwela cala misigama. Uthatha usibeka kwimizuzu ngama-28 uyaqala uvula ithotho lakho masikwamkele uphulaphula ungaphambili isikolo sakho i-Visara FM. Ufika sincokola naye uMr Gama Cuba, sincokola nge-village mentality versus limiting mindset. Ufika sele sizayivala kananjalo. Mhlawumbe omnye umntu Mr Gama angarhalela uba ancokole nawe further ngale ncoko. Ufumaneka phi okanye nina nifumaneka phi kananjalo namazwi akho wokugqibela?
So as I conclude, you know, guys, please find the time to look at Edukasi. Edukasi is on Facebook, www.edukasi.org. You will find us on the internet as well on Facebook. Mna personally, you can also find me on Facebook, Gama Cuba. My conclusion remarks is it's important to realize that perspectives that get into the global community may not necessarily relate with your perspectives of your local community. And so when you get into the global community, you must be ready to be stretched and you must be ready to be open, but always maintain your values. And so that's the crux of my argument. Rural mindsets can be beautiful and beneficial, but to carry them into every level of your life will cost you so much. As I've said, I'm also a village child, but I have observed that every great man or woman was once a village child, but at some stage, they had to give up some village fantasies limiting their lives. My name is Gama Cuba, and I appreciate this opportunity. And thank you so much to you, Luthando and Vukani Community Radio. Ayikhule Vukani, Nkosi.
Ayikhule bhuti, enkosi kakhulu. Kanti ke mphulaphula kwela cala lohlihla kwela cala nguye uGama Cuba